Today I'm going to show you why the November 1st candle could present the next big opportunity for the EURUSD, and it also lines up with what we're seeing on the DXY. And before I get started, guys, if you do want my help with your trading, click on the link at the top of this video, and that's going to give you 80% off lifetime access to VIP. That's daily videos, my help with your trading in Discord, also the ability to see my trades in real time, plus access to the course that launches this week. So Discord is where I spend most of my time. I've actually been in there for hours already this morning, talking about markets, presenting opportunities out there, and talking about a trade too that I put on last week that's already up about 100 pips. So if you do want my help with your trading, guys, be sure to see the link in the description. If you're on the website, click on that trading group link and you will be taken to that page where you can get 80% off. All right, so looking at the EURUSD, we know about this breakdown that we saw here recently. And the reason that you see this here, right, this little brief dip below this trend line is that this was respected on a weekly closing basis. So this is what we've talked about recently here for the euro, where you can see that back here on the weekly chart, the market never actually broke below that October trend line. So I mentioned this last weekend, and we can also see this too on the EXY, the euro index here. This is something we've talked about for weeks, where we got the breakdown from the EXY actually a few weeks ago, and that led us to believe that we were likely to see the euro fall and the dollar rally. So looking at the euro, what I'm going to talk about today is how the November 1st candle could have huge implications for the euro, and this also lines up with the DXY, which we'll talk about next. So looking at November 1st, this right here is the candle that I'm referring to. So if you'll notice here on this candle, right, and this is the daily time frame, this candle was never filled in or retraced. So notice how we had this long lower wick, and the very next candle opened right here and then just took off, right? We saw no retrace down here in this area. Now, long lower wicks like this tend to get filled. It doesn't matter if you're looking at the daily chart, the weekly, even like the 1 hour chart, they do tend to get filled because this creates an imbalance in the market. So if we look here, we've also got support down here right around 1.052. So for the EURUSD, you can see where it's reacting to this area that I mentioned last weekend. So if you saw the weekly forecast, 1.0635 to 1.067, this is the area I mentioned that could be a significant factor this week. Now, this was support on Friday because the market closed above. However, Monday closed below. So far today is struggling to get back above that. So here's the key for the euro. As long as it's below this area right here, okay, so between 1.0635 up toward 1.067, as long as it's below this on a daily closing basis, I like it down here toward this area, right around 1.052, all the way up toward about 1.055. And again, that's based on this lower wick down here from November 1st. Okay, so a pretty decent move there if we see the euro hold below this. Now, obviously, if it were to reclaim this up here above 1.067, then that right there could be bullish for the euro, at least in the short term. Now, it may look a little bit choppy back here in this area, and that's because we have this close above. So notice back here, this is our key level in question. And what you can see here is that from this low, we had this low here, a couple lows right before the breakdown, and it became resistance. Now, we did have a little fake out here where we got the close above, close back below, and then close back above. Now, the one thing, if you look here at the 2-day time frame, is that this is actually really clean. So this cleans it up, and you can see where this is being respected on the 2-day chart. So over here, again, we've got our low, we've got these lows, these highs through here. Notice how we never got a 2-day close above, and look at the 2-day now for the EURUSD. It did close below this area. So Monday was the 2-day close here for the EURUSD, and it did close below that area. So again, this is going to be resistance. If it can close above, it would be bullish in the short term. But while it's below, I do like it lower toward these lows down here, right around 1.052 up toward 1.055. Now, let's take a look at the DXY, the US dollar index, because this is also interesting in the sense that it lines up perfectly with an open gap. So looking at the DXY, you can see that back here on November 1st, okay, so this right here is the November 1st candle. And what you'll notice is that we have an open gap. So the market closed here, it opened the very next candle down here, and then just sold off. So there was no close to this gap up here at 106.88. So this is also November 1st, right? So it's funny how this gap on the DXY lines up with that lower wick on the EURUSD. So this, in my opinion, could be a magnet for the DXY here over the coming days. So you can see how the market is trying to establish itself above this area that we talked about over the weekend. So between 105.86 all the way up toward about 106.15. If it can reclaim this area today, right, and close convincingly above this, then I think this November open gap back here at 106.88 becomes your target. Now, it doesn't mean that we see it retest that exactly and sell off, because we could see a sweep of these highs back here. But generally speaking, this is going to be resistance for the dollar. Now, to be clear though, I will not be looking for a major top here for the dollar in this area. I think that, and we'll have to wait and see what happens here, but I think that what is more likely is that we get the market ranging between here for, days, maybe weeks, before we get the next big move. But I continue to think that we are likely to see the dollar head up toward 109 to 110 over the coming weeks and months. I've maintained that for a long time, and that is still my, final target this year for the dollar. Okay, so I just want to be clear there that I'm not saying that if we see this area retested up here, that the dollar is just going to sell off and do this, over the coming weeks. It could, right? It could, of course. But I think that consolidation up here is more likely between these two areas if we do get that retest to close the gap from back here on November 1st. And one reason too that I think we could see 109 to 110 for the dollar, and that this, is not likely to be a macro top, of course, nobody knows, is what's happening with the US 10-year. So we've talked about this a lot here on this website and channel, but this right here, this reclaim at 4.335% from the US 10-year yield, this is what triggered the recent dollar move. This was actually breaking above this level before the dollar had even moved. And the two are very positively correlated. If you haven't seen recent videos, be sure to go watch them. I talk about the correlation there. But if this market is going to come up here and test 5%, which does seem likely based on the trend, based on this channel, and also the fact that this high back here following this reclaim is likely to serve as a magnet. If we are going to see the US 10-year yield come up here and test this level, then that could represent a significant rally from the dollar, potentially higher than that November 1st candle. And that's especially true if we see the top of this channel tagged over the coming weeks. If we see that, then in my opinion, based on the correlation we've seen so far over the past, year plus, that could mean 110 for the dollar, potentially even higher. All right, so I still like the dollar higher here in the short term, up toward that November 1st candle. But again, the DXY does need to hold above this area here today. And for the EURUSD guys, this area of resistance between 1.0635 and 1.067, this has to hold up as resistance. As long as it does, though, I think this lower wick down here from November 1st could come into play. Subscribe to the channel for daily FX videos, and don't forget to smash the like button. Also, join us in VIP. See the link in the description of this video for 80% off lifetime access if you want me to help you with your trading. Trade well out there, everyone, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.